Hello, everyone. I want to see his life. Can you introduce yourself? And am I clear enough? I'm using a different system this time, sort of add some system glitch. So I want to see everyone that's online, your name and your location. I want to see everyone. Okay. Okay, I can see Mary from Nigeria. Okay. I can see Precious. Yes, I can see Precious from Nigeria. Where are my people from the UK? Where is everyone from the UK? I need you guys here now. Okay, I can see Festus from Nigeria. Guys, I want. Okay. Yeah, in 2 minutes, we're just gonna kick off live. Okay. I can see Muiwa from Birmingham. Guys, everyone should be here this evening. Everyone should be here. Everyone should be here. We've had a long journey coming. It got to one point I was like, should we just postpone this webinar? Of course, we've been doing monthly webinar since January, but this one was, shall I say, very difficult. That shows that there's a message that a young person, someone in their mid 40s, in their mid 50s, need to hear this evening that's going to be so transformational. So I want you to, I'm sure, of course, when you come to King's Council Night class, definitely you have your pen and your book ready. Definitely, they're going to be, key call to actions that you're going to take. So yes, we're going to start in 1 minute. So guys, share the links and just remind all your friends and families. I need every young person, especially the young people. I need them to be here this evening. I'm so focused. Every day I think about young people. Every day I think about young people. So I need them to be here now. They can't miss it. There are many people that have been able to mobilize for, they've talked about data and all of those things. And my team and I, we've arranged data for many, many people. So I need them. I need them here this evening. Okay, I can see Faith. Yes. So we're gonna kick off in three, two, one. Hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome to King's Council webinar. This time we're going to be speaking about rooted. We're standing in the wind of culture. And I said something here. Look at something really, really transformational. Can I have my slides, please? Back team. Yeah, thank you. Yes. Look at this. Every generation lives with winds, but ours live in a storm. The winds of culture, which is identity, ideology, technology, and economics, are not just shifting, but they are shaping what it means for us to become human. So, previous generations, we've talked about them in our webinars from the 90s to the early 2000s, but now everything is changing. And most times, most people can't keep up to the change, especially people from third world countries, especially. Now, due to immigration and migration over the past, let's say 10 years, many people have now migrated from third world countries to first world countries. That means in first world countries, you see people that have the same sort of realities with third world countries. So every generation lives with winds of culture, changes, but in ours, we're experiencing not just winds, but storm that is carrying people away to danger. So the winds of culture, what is your ideology? What do you believe in? Your identity. In today's world, people are questioning even your sex, for example. We have people that are multi-gender. In today's world, meanwhile, we know that in the past 30, 40 years, last 20 years, this was not so. If someone told me, let's say 15 years ago, that I'm, you know, homosexual, you're gonna be accosted, isn't it? But in today's world, we're learning to respect and abhor these people into the society. So look at this. There's a big danger for young people, especially from 15 years old to 20 years old to 25 years old. Now, talk about even those that are yet to be born or those that are just toddlers now. So, there's a very, very big issue. So, we're going to analyze what it means for you to be rooted in today's world, for you to be able to withstand the winds of culture. Guys, let me tell you, we all know that culture is changing. Culture is changing. And most times, I know we sort of like behave, I'm firm in my belief and all of those things. But because you're in this world, most times, even if you have opposing views and ideologies, because of the winds of culture, because winds, it pulls everything to where it's going. So because of the winds of culture, in terms of world power, technology, like I said, their identity, most times people that sort of have, should I say, a balanced mindset will tend to be shifted to these winds of culture. Can we go to the next slide? So I'm just trying to prep us concerning what it means for you to be rooted in today's world. So understanding culture as wind. That in social, I think in social science, we understood that culture is the way of life of people, and I know many young people can agree here. And I want you to put that culture is the way of life of people. Culture encompasses your norms, your beliefs, the symbol of society. But look at this. Today's culture is global, digital, fast paced, and trend driven. So, in today's world, we discover that the ambition it takes for you, if you are, let's say, somewhere in Ikorodu, Lagos, Nigeria, or in Oyo State, or you're in London, United Kingdom, we sort of have the same burdens now because the world is now a global village. Unlike before in the last 30 years, what makes up for your success quotient is different depending on the kind of society and geopolitical zone you find yourself in. But in today's world, we see that with the advent of especially technology, that gap has been narrowed now. That what comes as success in London is the same thing as Lagos. Before it was different. For example, what comes as success, let's say in the last 30 years was you, let's say, going to the moon. But someone back home, let's say in Lagos, in Osun State, we just think, for example, having a bachelor's degree gives that mark of success, isn't it? But in today's world, the margin has become much more slimmer. So we're saying here that the symptoms of a wind-driven generation, first of all, next slide, is short-term termism. Short-termism, the urge to perform and monetize quickly with no strategic depth. So you begin to see that everyone is going into content creation. And I know many people, young people have been asking, what's my vision? What's my goal? What do I have to do in today's world? How can I start if I don't want to do content creation? If I don't want to monetize things, if I want to build, what are the chances that I'm going to scale into new heights? Remember in the first webinar, we spoke about the ladder of success. And that's the framework that many of us are working with in Queen's Council. And I know many young people have joined us today from different locations. And one of the key emphasis, and I want you to also go back to our webinars, I think the first one especially, where we introduced the ladder of success. For number one, from existence to survival to you thriving to impact, then purpose and legacy. But look at something here. Why did I say that? Now, culture is saying that you can just move from existence to impact. Culture is saying that we need to bypass survival and thriving. Meanwhile, we see that those that thrive in today's world, those that are the global players, are those that have survived at one point or the other and have built that track record of resilience, of depth, of roots that makes them overcome the challenges of growth and society in today's world. But what culture is not proposing is that young people and everyone should bypass that stage of survival and thriving to just go to impact. So you begin to see that while for a young person that is 15 years old is having the burden of a 40-year-old man. And I'm going to give you an example. And today I'm going to be sharing some personal examples. I think I think some weeks ago, of course, I do follow news and trends in Nigeria. And I saw that there was a system glitch with the Joint Admission Matriculation Board, that's JAM. And many young people committed suicide. For people like us that are philosophers, that's a very big issue. That's what kind of mindset regulates a young person that thinks that if I fail a particular exam, then that marks as a total life failure. And I know many people laughed about it and then we moved on from it, but that's a very serious issue. Now, what's the definition of failure in today's world? Does it mean that if you fail at a particular exam or a task or an event, does that accumulate to life failure? So that's what culture is saying here. That failure, you can't fail. But we all know that for every success, for every innovation, for every invention you've seen in today's world, is based on cumulative failure. The light we all use today is based on, I think now 999 trials. All the big people we celebrate today have gone through tens of years of depth of research. But a young person, an average person in today's world is thinking, well, from just ideation to manifestation. So we begin to see identity crisis, the rise of expressive individualism without collective anchor. That's everybody who just wants to do what they want. There's no, you just believe I can do anything I want. Second, the third one is emotional volatility, the culture of offense. Now, if you go on social media, if you want to trend, then you have to pick maybe a political leader or a spiritual leader or a business leader to trend. That's your hallmark of success is based on demeaning and defaming another person. And that's what we see in culture today. We see the culture of outrage and the culture of comparison. So everybody wants to show that they are progressing and advancing in any area of their life, especially online and social media. And why is this a particular issue? Because social media, especially with the advent of artificial intelligence, is here to stay. And one of the burdens I've had is that for many people, especially in third world countries, they don't have the modus operandi, they don't have the software to be able to thrive in today's world. The fourth one is platform paradox. Now, everyone has a stage, but few have a script. For the things we are doing right now, in terms of King's Council, it took us more than 10 to 15, 10 to 12 years of active research, mentorship, relationship, discipleship, to be able to come to that point of you dispensing value at global level. But you see, people now want to become teachers. Now, if everybody is going to be teachers, who is going to be the students? So think about that. So the key reflection for this particular, the first phase is that are you navigating with your life with compass? That's having a sense of direction where you want to go to, either as an individual, either as a family, or as a society. That where are we going to? If we're going to mark ourselves based on the ladder of success, like we've shared earlier on, that you start with existence and everyone exists, even plants and animals exist. But now you go to that point of survival, you wanting food. And I said, what drives you is hunger, isn't it? And many people, for example, in today's world, they've involved themselves in what we call jackpot, for example. That was a strive towards greener pasture. We've said that once you get to that stage of survival, you want to now begin to thrive. You want more exclusivity to yourself, isn't it? So you begin to see all these things. Then we get to the point of now you want impact. That for many people, for the global leaders that have invested, for global leaders that have invested in taking money from different people, we now see that they now want to give back through having philanthropic foundations. They have foundations, they have research groups, isn't it? Because they know that it's not just the height of fulfillment you get is not just in you taking, but you want to give back to society. Now we get to legacy. So let's go to the next slide. So we're asking here that are you even living your life based on compass or weather vane? So compass is you having a sense of direction, but a weather vane just goes with the wind. It just goes anywhere it's tossed. And if you're familiar with the Holy Book, we said many people will be tossed with wind of doctrine, tossed to and fro. So today you're deciding, oh, what should we talk about? What trend is going on? And many people, why is it good to jump on trend? But many young people are being caught up in the winds of trend. So we see that the major challenge of our time, which is cultural fluidity, the major challenge of our time. This conversation is not about resisting culture. No, we're not fighting culture, but outlasting it. It's about becoming so deeply rooted that while others are reacting to the wind of change, you are responding with clarity and conviction. So, in a world constantly changing, both politically, economically, and ideologically, how do you build a life that is not only stable, but impactful, resilient, and intergenerational? So, the first thing is cultural fluidity. So you must begin to ask yourself on this call today that what's your definition of truth? What's your definition of success? What's your definition of having ethics? I think that was 2012, 2010 to 2015 was the wave of what we call Yahoo Yahoo for many people that are from third world countries. If you're in Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, many young people were involved in that wind of culture that the order of the day was for everybody to be involved in internet scamming, isn't it? But guess what? That's different today, isn't it? It has shifted now to social media and content. And I told many people then that it's not going to last. I had many people that we grew up together that were involved in internet scamming. Guess what? They are alive today, but they're not doing much with life. Because let me tell you, seasons and culture will come and go. But if you begin to mark yourself against this particular metrics, that what's your definition of truth? What do you stand for? What do you stand for? The second one is technological velocity. So look at something. We consume more information daily than past generations did in a month. So an average young person has access to varied information. And why that is good for you to have information, but information without any reference, without any security, will lead to lawlessness. And that's what we're seeing to this world. That everyone, has access to information about social isolation. Despite hyperconnectivity, loneliness and depression has become an epidemic, especially in first world countries. You see many young people having victims and burdens of old people. And you begin to see that, for example, when I came to this country about 6 years ago, there were some kind of sicknesses that were not, they were not used to people from a particular race. But as I stayed long in the country, I think last 3 years I was speaking in an event, and I said, now we are beginning to see many sicknesses that are not even traditionally, related to people from, for example, third world countries, not happening to them. For example, mental health sicknesses and illnesses, psychosis, and many of them, PTSD. You see young people involved in this, and they tell you when you begin to speak to them, they'll tell you they are depressed. Before you know it's self-harming, and it's prevalent, especially in first world countries. And I know it's also prevalent in third world countries also. So it's a very big issue. Can we share the slide, please? So we begin to see that, especially also economic instability. We see the prevalence of inflation, AI disruption, and the gig economy. Everything is uncertain. For example, last 5, 10 years, government can be held accountable. But in today's world, for you to achieve the kind of life you want to achieve, you must live with anti-government. That means the kind of advantage that a good government will give you no longer exists again, because now a government are even running their own independent agenda. And most times, if you can't craft out your own sort of like life framework, you will get caught up. Many people have died from wars, for example, in Ukraine. That war has been existing for over 3 years, I think 4 years now. And many people in their middle age have been affected by this. So you begin to say that if you can't become rooted, having a form of self-identity, self-awareness, and your definition of what truth is in today's world, you're gonna be caught up, and before you know it, you're at the 50, 60, you're at the 70, and you can't measure what you've done with life. So we see this key in the King Thursday, the power of anchoring. In economics, is called you building sustainable wealth founded in long-term investments. See, if you want to make long-term investment, you want to achieve sustainable wealth, it has to be linked to you investing deeply in. Many people were victims of, I think, the Ponzi scheme that happened, I think, some month ago. Look at that. Many young people were involved in that because they think that achieving sustainable wealth is based on you just quick fixed. No. But for the organizations you've seen thriving into this world for over 100 years, Bloomberg and many of those companies, they're the ones that have invested long. So generally, we are seeing that society and culture is eroding away that concept of long-term investments. That is now quick fix, quick gain. No, in life, the storms of identity, values, and social pressure test how deep your convictions run. Yes, when I came here, I think 6 years ago, many people were caught up in different decisions. For example, having to do things that are illegal in this country. I will begin to see that those things later on is not having a total effect on them. So if you don't have that concept of you being rooted, that form of you want to carve out a future, a life from what is available, then you're gonna be caught up, and before you know it, in your 60s, in your 70s, you can't lay hold on anything. So look at something here. The key thought here is it's not the wind that determines your direction, it is your anchor. Because I can tell you now, oh, there's this particular investment, and you go take your life earnings and life fortunes there, and you get lost. But you must get to that point where, as a young person, as someone, as a parent, you can say, this is the truth. This is what we stand for, irrespective of what is outside. Irrespective of what is outside. So we're gonna see the three type of wind that's affecting many people in today's world. The winds that will put many people. The first one is the identity wind. Can we go back to the identity wind? The identity wind. We're gonna dwell on this. Social media tells us we are what we show. No. That if as a young person you can craft out your own image independent of social media, that as a parent you can't train your child independent of the values that social media gives. It's going to be so difficult for us to have rooted individuals at the end of this media age. Because guess what, guys? There's always going to be one new app or one new technology that's going to come in the next 10 years. And I told you guys, I think in the second webinar, there are three things that's going to shape the 21st century. Number one is religion. Number two is artificial intelligence. And the third one is migration. These three things are going to become the colossus of the 21st century. That's the advent of artificial intelligence will lead to a new belief system. And we're already seeing that. We're already seeing that there are many things that, even subtly, for example, you might want to just, before you have to think about solving a tax. But with AI, PAM, it gets done. And that's going to evolve your belief system based on dependence in for example, spiritual entity. And because of that, because of the rise of artificial intelligence, it's going to lead to loss of job, and people will migrate both from first world countries to third world countries and vice versa. So we're seeing that if you don't begin to invest, especially in these three areas, it's going to be so difficult. The rise of social media, different apps will come. So you must begin to have that identity of, I'm not what is shown on Instagram. No, I'm not what Facebook tells me. And look at a trick here. Facebook says, tell us your mind, isn't it? So tell what's on your mind. Do you know many people have said things that ought not to be said, and it has come back to haunt them 10 years time. It has come back to haunt them 10 years time. Visibility over virtue. Society celebrates visibility, but not virtue, actually. So they just want to say, and I've told you, I think in the second webinar, that they'll tell you, get results, climb high. But you must begin to ask yourself, at what cost? At what cost? And that's what we are doing here at King's Council. That we want to show you the cost of the kind of life you want to live. That if you want impact, influence, and income, there are costs to be paid. And for many people that you see achieving these results that are not rooted, they are paying a greater cost in terms of even intangibles. For example, their peace quotients. For example, their joy quotients. That's the dimension of fulfillment they can derive. And that's why you see in today's world that why it's good, for example, for you to have money, for you to be wealthy or rich. That is not even the absolute. Because we've seen many rich people, many wealthy people, many well-to-do people committing suicide and are depressed. And you begin to ask yourself, so is money the absolute? Is fame the absolute? Then certain people that will not want to mention their names will not have committed suicide or have had crisis in life. So society celebrates visibility. They want you, yes, express yourself as a young person, show forth, bring your gifting. But remember that a gift that is not refined and that you don't train on is going to also fall you down. It's going to cause crash land. And that's one of the major issues we are seeing in today's world. That many people, the depths, the routine of success is so slim now that before you know it, a person, for example, is saved, a person goes into training, and the next day becomes a master. No, that there's a certain criteria for you to transcend into that form of becoming a master or becoming so skilled. For example, you have to go through traditional education, and how many years does it take you, for example, to become a doctor? But guess what? We now have people that they want to boycott the particular process, which is true, of course, level and efficiency. But you must still undergo certain trainings. And the essence of those trainings is to give you that mindset. So, as a student, for example, you say, well, I just want to become a master, I just want to become a manager or my own leader. I don't want to submit under anybody. I don't want to go to trainings. But what's training meant to do? It's meant to give you efficiency. It's meant to give you discipline. It's meant to give you a mindset of becoming a servant that makes you able to serve, even as a leader. So we begin to see that the Gen Zs, they are expressive, but they are very, very anxious. The Generation Z is the most expressive generation, yet the most anxious and depressed. Your true worth is being rooted, meaning you know your worth without visibility. And I'm emphasizing this because many people, many young people are going to live in the next 5, 10 years regretting many things. And I can tell you that for free. Because after I left Nigeria, I think last 6 years, there are many of them that were involved in internet scamming, Yahoo Yahoo, and many of those things. But into now, when we see ourselves online, we know that they've made mistakes, real-time mistakes. They're idols. They're idols. And meanwhile, those are the people that culture have shaped as influencers. So you must begin to ask yourself that who are my influencers? What's my reference point? Who is my mentor? Who am I following? Because you go on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, and you want to be like this person. But remember that true success is like an iceberg, and in many of the things you don't see what power sits. For example, I told you that in today's world, your allegiance is much more powerful than your intelligence. That who you are allied to is much more important than what you know. Who you know, much more greater than what you know. So, because of that, if you discover many people they are victims of occultic organizations, and many people are victims of territorial powers. Yes, in today's world. So, as a young person that is naive, he does things is skill based. Meanwhile, you go to the office, and I think there was a report some years ago about the UN building that I think was bombed or something. And when they were searching there, they saw many, many charms there. That's a United Nations building. Look at that. So I know a young person is there thinking, well, I just have to be good and all of that. Meanwhile, your alliance is so, so important. I'll emphasize that anything you do, your alliance is very, very, very important. Who are you aligned to? Aligned to? So, because a young person can say, I've tried all my best. I've tried all my best, but best is relative. Based on what? And that's one of the things I've seen in recent times, that many young people, they give excuses that, oh, I don't have money, my parents are poor, they are managing. But guess what? From my research, I've seen that many people don't truly desire true success. They don't truly desire it. They just want success by any means. And they will at no point, tamper on their self-value, self-worth, and identity to achieve means to an end. And the more you do those things, the more you see that it backfires in today's world. So let's go to the next wind. After identity wind, we have productivity wind, the capitalist pressure. The capitalist pressure that it rewards you just hustling. So you see a young person saying, I'm hustling, I'm hustling, I'm hustling. No. In today's world, we see that strategy beats hustling. And I've said it earlier on that the courageous will always lead the gifted. So we've emphasized in our webinars before your communication skills, your appearance, your knowledge bank. But how many young people are building on this? They think that success is just, a visage, that you just appear into it. You're only as valuable as what you produce. The burnout reality. Many people are born out in today's world. Like, of course, they tell you they are depressed, there's no hope again because things that they should grow into, they want to jump into. And once you jump into things, you experience stress and fall and pain. So you must begin to ask yourself this kind of question, the rooted question. Is what I'm building worth being tired for? Is it worth it? Is it worth it? At what cost? What's the cost of you living that life of income, influence, and impact? Let's go to the third one, which is the belief wind. So I've emphasized this that we have the identity wind, knowing who you are, the productivity wind, and the belief wind. Truth over trend. Truth must transcend not just trending. It must be transcendent, not just trending. That in today's world, we think that things that are trending are really true. No, the truth needs no audience to be true. Truth needs no audience to be true. And why am I saying this? Because many people will live this decade. One of the things that, of course, we all know now, for those that are just joining us, and one of the major the key vision we have at Queen's Council is, the fact that we want to raise young people, we want to make them become the next leaders. And where do we fit in? We are sent to the 21st century, but 2025 marks the quarter of the 21st century. So for the next 2025 to 2050, we want to see many young leaders rise that will give that redefinition of culture, of society. Because what we have today is not sustainable. Because once we don't rise, once young people that are online today don't rise and they live a mediocre life, what will happen is that culture will change drastically, and many of us we have to bow by the rules, the regulations, the policies. And that's what we're saying, that we need leaders to come in every sphere of influence. But that now we're not just sending leaders, a leader that doesn't have a self-identity, that doesn't know how to stand strong on his conviction. No, but a leader that knows what it is about belief wind, so that you know that it's not just the popular that marks it for being accurate. No, that sometimes truth may be unpopular and unfamiliar. So you must know as a leader, as a young person, that you must always speak truth over trend. Why am I saying that? That means when you go on TikTok, when you go on Instagram and you see a trend that is disaligned with your conviction, you are not pressured into doing it because every young people or young person all over the world are doing it. Opinion overload. What's your filter as you scroll through Instagram or TikTok? What filters what you see, what you feed on, what you engage, and the algorithm beliefs. We live in a age of borrowed convictions. Borrowed convictions. That means a person just say, I believe in this, and you take it because he's an influencer, is a rich person, is a pastor. You just go ahead without you vetting this. That is this in conformity with my life? There are many books like Galen Anderson, Deeper Life. What did it teach me? Win, WIN, a life of worship, a life of integrity and non-conformity. That's at the end of my shall I say my retransformation. When I went to Ghana, I was able to stand in my identity, in what I believed in, even though it was not popular, even though it was not fancy. But that those that did things that were popular, they saw the kind of lifestyle that we lived and they came back. Let me tell you, a life of non-conformity is an absolute life. And that if we are going to redefine culture, if you are saying you want to live a rooted life, there are many things that you will not even indulge in and engage in because of your conviction. And I've said here that the true leaders of today's world are those that are committed to their convictions, not conditions. So you can't say the drive for just bettering your pockets, your bank account will drive you to do certain things. No. That true heroes of their generation are those that stood for truth. We know many of them, Nelson Mandela, the great patriarch of Africa. And in today's world, why am I saying this? Because many people don't want to relate with all these people. They don't want to relate with them again. And I was speaking to the volunteers, I think some weeks ago, and I said, and we had a training, and I said, how many people took down notes from what was shared? And no, and I think it was one or two people. And I was like, no, in today's world, we must get back to the culture of reading. There's a scripture that says, "Till I come, give attendance to reading and to exhortation." How many young people on today's call have read a book this year? And now I know there are parents that have joined the call this evening. So begin to think about what has made you become what you are versus what is making your children become what you think they will be. That if as a young person, you don't get back to the culture of sitting down to read books, but that your wisdom and knowledge filter is online, you're going to end up a casualty, an abnormal adults that will not be able to enforce conviction, and that's how generations and culture changes, and it sort of leads to decadence, moral decadence in what we are seeing to this world. So, truth over trend. Let's go to the next slide. Roots. What does it mean for you to be rooted into this world? Your root as infrastructure. Look at this particular picture here. Success is like an iceberg. So this is an iceberg. We see there that the major, if you look at the depth, what you see there is just a snippet of what it is, and that is how a life that should be. That what is online, what is visible, is just a snippet of what is internal. But what culture is saying is that it should be reversed. We should reverse it. So what is inside the water should be up, and what is up should be down. And that's what leads to capsizing into this world. So you being rooted is an internal economy of principles, of values and foresight. Is you cherishing the culture of process, developing slowly, deeply, and invisibly. There's nobody that's entered that realm of mortals, of immortals, that have lived a visible life. Because once you are common, like I said, light is cheap by availability, but by delivery is costly. You can see the sun everywhere, availability. But if you want to make good use of light, it comes at a cost, delivery. That if your life is what we see here, like this iceberg, then you're living a rooted life, a life of depth. That no matter the wind, no matter the storm, no matter the tornado, you will keep on standing. But if we reverse it, if we reverse it with any wind, with any tornado, with any storm, with any tsunami, it results in capsizing and flow. And that's what we are fighting against. And we're beginning to see the adverse effects of a life that is visible but is not deep. So risk success is like an iceberg. Most of it remains invisible. You must have invisible patterns. Like I said, your culture of reading, your culture of meditating, your culture of staying true to your values, even when nobody is there. Many people are just living the online facade nowadays, but that is not supposed to be so. So we see that you want to live a rooted life, it must come with that structural infrastructure of you living an invisible life, most times not visible to the public. And we must return to that culture of living a private life. That if at all there's anything that has to be shared online, that has to come online, must be vetted by your set of principles, your values, and foresight. Next slide, please. Rooted in identity, balanced in nature. Because somebody is saying, well, you are saying that we should be deep, and that is all. No. At the end of the day, we need leaders that's going to shape policies, that's going to influence culture, the sphere of influence, and definitely, of course, you're going to be productive. Like I said, the ladder of success, which is you existing. I want you to survive, thrive, and aim. Of course, you can't even talk about impact without you thriving and you surviving. So there are things to do, but that if once you are rooted in your identity, then it becomes easy to be able to scale new heights. Like I said in the first webinar, scaling new heights. Like a tree, for example, once it's rooted, then it can begin to grow tall, isn't it? But that now we can grow tall. If any wind comes, because of its roots, it's not going to fall, even though it's going to be shaking. And that's what we are saying here. You have to be connected to the ground and aligned to sunlight. So if at any point in time that you're going to even move an inch, it's going to be based on you aligning to something. a bigger, a stronger purpose, sunlight. And you see that trees, they don't bend to wind, they bend to the sunlight, photosynthesis, for those dedicated here. So balance is the foundation of you being rooted, connected to the ground, and aligned to sunlight. And some people will tell me, and especially the popular or the cheap debate, especially in third world countries like Africa or countries like Africa, that religion is the problem in Africa. It is not true. Because for every religion that I've done researching, whether it's the popular religion, religion in itself is empty, is plain. It's only human involvement that makes it good or bad. So someone is saying, well, I have limitations because of, like, for example, my church or my religion and all of that. But the kingdom life doesn't choose between you becoming a lion or a lamb. It demands both. Like a tree, you must have connections with the ground, but also align yourself with sunlight. So I'm saying here that you want to withstand the winds of culture, the winds, the storms of culture. You must have two types of alignment connected to the ground as your roots, but you must also be aligned to a bigger purpose, which is sunlight. So, as a young person that is on the call today, a parent that's on the call today, what's the purpose? Remember, we said earlier on in a ladder of success, and I'm so stringent on that, and I'm going to keep on saying that is the framework of life. Existence, that is the summary of life, and went further to even time it into age groups. Existence to survival, to you thriving, impact, purpose, and legacy. And if you remember, for those that joined us in our first webinar in January, we said that purpose must be aligned to two things. That this world we are, this universe we are, is regulated by two bodies, light and darkness. That anything you do, your impact into this world is either is aligned to a purpose for light or for darkness. So whether it's the LGBTQ or gay movement, is aligned to a deeper purpose than what you see. So whether it's training children or making them educated, is connected to a deeper purpose and a bigger purpose than you see. So every young person must have that connection with a deeper form of purpose. That think about it. You see, because you know why I'm saying this? It's difficult for you to have that sustainable and consistent form of conviction without it being powered by anything bigger than you. The invisible powers the visible. So if you're not connected to the invisible, you have nothing to do with convictions, with identity, with you being, you being truthful, you being good, you being kind. Those are intangibles that it takes the invisible forces to power that. For many people, for example, they get into, like I was listening to a webinar, I said people that get into government and they embezzle money are involved in corruption. On a normal day, they didn't plan so. You know why? Because when they got it, they just thought it was more of willpower. No, no. It's willpower plus a force. So the kingdom demands both strength and gentleness in today's world. Strength as in your roots, but your gentleness and your flexibility as in you bend into sunlight. You have to have a dual identity in today's world. And I know that many young people are, when I speak to them, I coach and I counsel many young people. And sometimes I'm just burdened with the level of naivety I see them exhibiting. Meanwhile, they don't know that they are victims of programmings that are happening at territorial spaces. Programmings. And we can't begin to mention them here. Some of the programs you see on your media are programs that tends to lead you to a form of, like I said in the first webinar, moral decadence and social decadence. Let's go to the next slide. You're rooted in purpose, like I said, present in society. There's that growing argument between you. Oh, should I go into ministry or industry? No, not slothful in business, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord. It's very difficult. You can't maintain you being rooted without connection to purpose. No. Remain rooted. You can't want to stand out. If you standing out means you are standing against something, but for something. Standing against something, standing against a lie, against deception, against immorality, but for truth. So you must be connected and you must become fervent, not just only in the spirit, but also in your business. And that's what we're trying to do at King's Council. That many young people are still sleeping, are still slumbering. Many parents, they don't have that sense of purpose. They don't know that for you to be able to stand and become rooted, you also have to go to where the wind is. Parents in society, God needs you both in church and in society. We must erase the false divide between the sacred and the secular. You must go to where they are shaping culture. You must be present there. But what I'm saying is that, and this is the crux of what we are saying. That people hear this and say, "Oh yeah, we must be present in the boardrooms, in society, in a secular place." But they don't have the consecration that it takes for you to stand out. And we have many stories like that, like Daniel, like Joseph, they stood out. But for someone like Samson, because he was not rooted in his conviction, in his consecration, it didn't last long. So, well, I gave examples: a banker with fire, a pastor that has policy wisdom, but I said a pastor, a true pastor, a banker. So, in society, it must be present, having that excellent spirit dispensed as wisdom, connected to your purpose. That you want to draw men to a form of moral stability, away from the darkness, away from nudity, away from um different social vices. A tech founder who trembles at the word, so that we don't want to see you just reciting your Quran or your Bible, but we also want you to bring out technological innovations, so that you're not just like I said earlier on, that most times, remember now, I think in our third webinar, we said that most times you have to become a trailblazer. You want to influence culture, most times you have to become a trailblazer, a pace setter. And that demands excellence, that demands hard work. And what we are doing, for example, at King's Council, is we are pace setting. Because you know why? Many organizations are involved with, generations from Generation X. But not many people are involved with Gen Zs. They are saying, oh, they are corrupt, they are bad, they're not respectful. But who is teaching them? And that's what we are doing. And we are seeing changes. So most times you have to become a trailblazer and a pace setter. Value versus productivity. Value is inherent potential, and many people are victims of this. They have inherent values, potentials, giftings, but what are you producing out? Are you building your external productivity in today's world? Many young people, they message me, we're looking for jobs and all of that, but people don't even know how to write CVs in today's world. Even if you give them a template, they don't even know, they don't want to put in that hard work. You being rooted is hard work, but it's cheaper for you to be rooted and stand strong, because you won't have to bend to everything. Remember that the stronger the tree, the harder it becomes for you to just be tossed to and fro. That's what we are saying here. That there's a way you can live a rooted life, that the adverse effect of societal changes will not affect you. But if you are dependent on the wind movement, you'll be tossed to and fro, and you can't achieve purpose through that. For example, as a young person, if you live all your life just chasing tea and bread, it's not how you come to that point of you thriving or living an impactful life. That's what we are saying here. And before you know it, at a point, you are 15 years old. I'm young. But before you know, you're 20, 25, 26, you're 30, you're 40, 50, and there's nothing. You have never scratched the surface in terms of your impact, talking of purpose and legacy. So the earlier, the better you begin to form these key foundational values as your roots, the better for you to stand strong and climb ladders of success and ladders of greatness. God grows men in silence. He upgrades mantle before platforms. Look at that. I had the opportunity. We had a very top person come to my church I think last Saturday. And I know many young people, like I've been saying that. And if you remember, I think the third webinar or the fourth webinar, and I did a presentation where I talked about the law of life, isn't it? Preparation and opportunity. that life is summed up as preparation opportunity. The things we share here, it's just amazing because I say it and I'm also a victim of it, isn't it? And these things are very, very true. Many people pray for opportunities, but how many people are preparing? The top leader came, the pastor came, and of course is the European pastor. And I was privileged to be his personal assistant. And I was there at the green room with the pastors and introduced me. Oh, this person is X and X. I'm the coordinator of the campus scholarship and all of that. And they began to just talk about it. They said, introduce yourself. And I told him, oh, I've spoken at the United Nations COP26, COP27. I've spoken at UN in New York. I founded King's Council. This is what I do. Pam, pam, pam. Opportunities came. Opportunities for bigger platforms is on the way. But many people, and I go back and I was thinking, these are the things I share with young people here. How many people are prepared for the opportunities that they pray for, they cry for? And we have them, of course, we have volunteers that are on call today. And of course, every now and then we have meetings and I'll tell them that you don't want to become a victim of society. You have to be rooted. You have to be rooted. You have to be prepared. Wisdom dispensed as excellence and mighty works. Wisdom, not just the invisible, but how can you make them to become visible, like the iceberg? The iceberg is not saying, I'm rooted downward, I'm under the water. No, but there must be something to show, because if not, you're going to be influenced. You're going to be influenced. Let's go to the next slide. So look at something here. I said leaders in touch with heaven can move the heads. Leaders in touch with heaven, leaders in touch with the sunlight will be able to affect the heads. We need intercessors in parliament. These are burning issues. You want to withstand the winds of culture as a parent, as a leader, as a young person. Is a wake-up call that you have to step up to that owner's mentality, that out of the winds of culture, the storms of culture, you must be able to carve out a kind of life you want. And many people are already carrying out that. There are many people, mentors like John Obedi, they are living an independent lifestyle beyond the realms of any government, beyond the realms of any policy. And that's the kind of life we want to get to. That no matter what is coming, no matter the floods of culture, there's already a gate of values, of convictions that guide everything we do. Not just what the government says or what an influencer says, but I'm committed to my convictions, my life goals and purpose. That's because I have one. I don't know if you have one. Next slide. The myth of flexibility. We have been told to adapt or die. But no tree survive by bending to every wind, but like photosynthesis. So look at something very, very important here. What you say, how you say it, when you say it, and to whom you say it is as important as your message. And this statement I made, I'm gonna say it again in our next webinar. And you're gonna see the difference with what I said here. At every point in time, every young person here must be involved in that game of transformation. Always reinventing yourself. If you go check our videos at our first webinar, this is not the quality of videos you see. But because we know that your message is as important as how you say it, when you say it, who you say it, and that determines your reach. So that if you don't begin to take roots now and begin to become stronger in your conviction and have depth, then you have no stake in shaping culture in today's world. If you're not refined, you have no stake in the game of culture in today's world. So the myth of flexibility, culture praises fluidity. But institutions, for example, like marriage, purpose and legacy, they require you to have foundations. So you see companies like Apple, for example, companies like Toyota, they can change their models, they can change the kind of brand they bring out, but their key values, their core values remain unchanged, and that's what makes them stand out. So, what in today's, like I said, I think in our third webinar, we said for people like Daniel and the three Hebrew boys, we know we always say, for example, that they didn't eat the king's meat. And I said, no, hold on. They didn't eat the king's meat, but they ate the king's meal. Because if they didn't eat the king's meal, they would have died of hunger. I will tell you that as you begin to ascend and grow in the ladder of success, there will be a point in time that you exhibit positive compromise, isn't it? For those that are here, can you comment on that? Positive compromise. What makes it a positive compromise? Anything that doesn't tamper with your convictions and your value, fix to go. So, for example, people will have to do jobs that they may not necessarily like to do because they are in that season of domestication, isn't it? But a time will come whereby you have to transfer to your season of sophistication, and now you can exhibit positive rebellion. That the same Daniel and his friends that ate the king's meal and took the king's name got to a point in time and said, no, we can't bow down now because that tampers with their conviction. So it's so clear. Convictions, your values over facade and conditions. That and everything goes well until it comes against your conviction. That you will be humble and respectful to that boss. You'll be smart, you'll be decent until he says, for example, I want to sleep with you. Then that becomes that gives you are strong on you exhibiting positive rebellion. You're not gonna say, "Oh, I've been asked to compromise." Against what conviction? If your conviction is you having morality and decency, then that is against that. So if you don't have the understanding or the definition of your self-value, how will you know that, for example, you don't have to sleep with somebody to get a job? But for what we are saying to this world, that many people are saying, just do anything it takes to get a job or to get a contract. And most times it backfires. Next slide. So we are saying here that you need strength. Strength. Like an oak tree with deep foundations, you withstand pressures that topple others. Pressures that topple others. I'm telling you the truth, guys. I don't want to begin to go into personal stories. Things that seem cheap and you can trivialize are things that many people of our age go through and they crumble and they cringe at. Why? Because they didn't have the foundation. Those years you were investing, last 10 years, reading books on Miles Muron, Daniel Anderson, Tim Lavender. Where were they? Where were they? You need flexibility to become rooted. No, the previous slide. Flexibility. Like the reed bending in the wind, you adapt without breaking or losing your essence. Like the reed. Look at the picture there. It bends, but it doesn't stay. It doesn't stay uprooted. It stays rooted. So I'm showing that duality of how you should live your life, like the oak tree. You have deep foundations, you can withstand pressure that beside other people, that topples others, but also you must be flexible. Like I said, you're positive compromise, like the reed. Once it doesn't affect your essence, then you can bend to the wind, of course, to sunlight. And now your wisdom, drawing nourishment from ancestral knowledge while embracing scientific insight. In fact, one of the major crux of this generation is that the old is useless. That's also an identity with a social wind. The old is useless. No, what they are saying, it may not be unnecessarily false, because most times innovation and technology, most times the enemy is traditions and maintaining routines and traditions is the opposite of innovations and technology. But that is a methodology in which you go through it now, having that concept of wisdom. Because for every innovation you see, for every technology you see, for every new thing you see, is a function of or lessons learned from old things. And I told you here, guys, that I remember I told you guys that many of our parents, for example, don't even have the software. When I mean software, the mindsets, the game plan in training many children to becoming global giants in today's world. Why? Because they were trained with a different kind of software. For example, hard work, traditional education and knowledge, go to school, get a degree. When today's world, it has changed. But I told you guys that you need wisdom because you must also draw from those ancestral knowledge. Because in today's world, your degree will also help your real-time skills. So your degree, your BSc, your master's degree, your training course will give you an advantage over others that just came with just new insights and just they just have to do the work. No. So that's why you need wisdom. You need wisdom, you need flexibility, and you need strength. That you want to become committed in today's world. That wisdom is so essential. And you can't have wisdom without a form of understanding. And you can't have understanding without knowledge. And how do you get knowledge? By reading books. By reading books, by investing in your knowledge bank. In your knowledge bank. In your knowledge bank. And that is the crux of what is means to be rooted. Knowing the fundamentals of life. And every young person that is here has to go back and begin to engage real-time wisdom. Because the wind of culture is going to come, and many people are going to be caught up in making lifetime decisions that will become costly in the end. And it's good that we are saying it now because by that time there will be no excuse. Like we told them years ago, for example, that was before the pre-COVID time. I told many people then that there will be the fall of education in Nigeria. I was saying it, and many people can bear. People like Joel, are you there? Can you comment? We used to have town hall meetings those days in Ikodo, Nigeria, and we would tell them about, having to scale new heights. That is the world bigger than what we see today. Many people didn't keen to it. I can remember myself going to meet people. I was begging people's parents that they should get a degree. I can remember myself. I don't want to begin to mention names, but they trivialized it. But in today's world, they can't compete anymore because that's even the foundation that gives them a leverage in today's world, having a degree. And the same thing we are saying now. For example, even when we came to the UK that time, when we came here, we saw something, and I said no. That why this may not be the absolute, but that being here gives you that form of exposure, and it shapes your mindset on a kind of life that leads to moral sanity and achievement and thriving and impact. And we said many people should come here at that point in time. That was it, 2019, 2020, before COVID. And after COVID, people did not come, but many people now they're victims of jackpot. Now, especially now, a person that tells me that he wants to come abroad, for example, to come and study, is coming into a very, very complex game and system. Whether you are going to the Canadas of this world, or US, or UK, because like I said, migration is a big issue of the 21st century. We are saying these things because these are key time issues. If you don't begin to invest in these things, you can't stand out as a young person. You can't. You can't. And because of that time, I can't begin to take. I met some people I was in a meeting and they said, "How did you get a job in a BT?" I never used my degree because of the things we knew. And many people have all these things, but they don't have the understanding of it. Next slide, please. So I'll begin to round up. Three dimensions of being rooted. Develop a worldview that outlives facades, that outlives just trends, meaning before metrics. Rooted people focus on legacy over likes. Today I was on Instagram and I saw Eli Mulenda. She's a motivational speaker, and she was sharing her journey. She started 2015, and I was encouraged. I was like, wow, 2015. This was 10 years ago, and now they are cashing out on the reward of investment over time. 10 years. In today's world, how many people can invest in a purpose or a cause or a goal for 10 years? But actually, the law of life states that Should I say 8 to 10 years is what makes you become a master? And I think I don't know if someone can share the statistics. There's a law that states that for anything you want to become a master in, you need an average of 10 years. Or how many young people in today's world can they have the tenacity it takes, the resilience it takes to learn a skill or become proficient in something for 10 years? There are many people that are great, for, that they shape our mindset in that regard. Maybe Slessor. Do you know about maybe Slessor? People that from third world countries like Nigeria. Nelson Mandela. What they taught us about resilience. Resilience is a industry skills in today's world. Resilience as a mindset, but resilience as a skill in today's world. That's in industry. You need resilience. Now you write on your CV, they ask you, oh, well, you've gone to school to do BSc in accounting, in business, MSc, PhD, but they still want to see your human resource skills. And now you don't know how to work with teams, you don't know how to communicate, you can't get a job. That's what we are saying. I will have said it many, many times, your foundational values. How can you work with them? How can you accommodate people? How can you speak out for yourself? Boldness, we said it, ABC, audacity, boldness, and confidence. Your financial roots, your building assets, the economic principle of delayed gratification, compound interest over instant return. How many people are choosing to invest in these things? Not just about income, short-term income, but building real-time assets, networks. Many people want to live a no commitment life or friendship, no commitment friendship. And for the many people you see, for example, Tole Elumelu, Dangote, Otedola, those people, they've known themselves and they've maintained relationship for more than 30 years. And many of you are maintaining friendship for over 10 years. Can you begin to think about the mindset behind that? There's no sustainability of friendship. You don't have the mind. You think, oh, this person, go, delete number, block. Wow. You can't thrive into this world. Over spiritual roots, convictions over consensus. You see many young people downplay prayer, downplay purpose, downplay power. They term them as church rituals. These are internal economies of strength. The ability to hold firm even when it is unpopular. And this scripture said, you will know the depths of your strength when storms come. Is that if you faint in the day of battle, your strength is small. And definitely you want to go through life, except if a person has planned to die young. But you want to live a life of longevity, of impact, you will go through storms. I can tell you that. But that you don't get to that place. It's not when you get to the stage, you go and check if your mic is working. For example, is it now I'm checking if your mic is working? Now we have done that backstage. That shows preparation. People who build rooted lives may start slow, but they build compound legacy. What takes others 5 years of hype, next slide, might take you 10 years of depth. And this is the truth that people don't want to hear again. And we will keep on saying it. Can we go to the next slide? Is the truth that young people don't want to hear again. They don't want to hear depth. They don't want to hear process. They don't want to hear, taking it slowly. They want to hear speed, volume. No. A vision rooted in conviction. Look at this. Very, very important. And I want you to note that down. A vision rooted in conviction will always outlast an ambition fed by applause. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Yes. A vision rooted in conviction will always outlast an ambition led by applause. So, we're going to talk about a call to rootedness, and we'll end because there are many things we've shared tonight. Look at that, 5 years of hype versus 10 years of depth. Depth always win on the long run. Next slide. So, a call to rootedness. What do I have to do? So you're going to be asking, what do I have to do? What do I have to do? Audit your life. Audit your life as a young person. Like I've shared it. The first way, for example, go to even our videos on Instagram, on YouTube. Have you written down your goals for your life? Like literally. Like I said in one of the videos we shared, I said when I was 13, I wrote down, I didn't know what it was. I just knew that as a young person, you have to be ambitious. I wrote down a goal for if I'm 17. When I became 17 years old, I wrote down a goal for if I'm 21. How many young people write down goals literally into this world? And most times, most of those goals, you achieve them because you know what you want. There's nothing like knowing what you want. So audit your life. Where are you spending your time and energy? Where are you spending your time and energy? The second one is build daily practices. You cannot say you want to be involved in being rooted without being calm. I'm telling you the truth. Because most time when you plant a seed, you need stillness for it to grow and germinate. There is no particular global leader, there's no particular industry, or should I say company, that they don't involve themselves in what they call brainstorming and think tank, where they reflect. So they call it many things in different organizations. Stand-up calls, they call it one-to-ones, they call it many things, stakeholder calls, review. You have to get to that point whereby you say, at my life, I'm reflecting, what have I done in the past 1 year? What have I done in the past 2 years, 1 month, 1 day, 1 hour? Learning. I think it's on the next slide. You have to get to that point of learning your knowledge bank. That's what gives you an edge for every young person on the call today, your knowledge bank. The third one is joining a rooted community. Edit your community on social media. See, guys, on my Instagram, for example, there are certain content that you can't see there because I've audited them. So when you come on my social media, for example, on my YouTube, you only see just anything on religion. That's what you see. I'm not gonna see someone that's naked there because you have the power to. Because what you see determines what you think. So join like-minded community. Be among people who prize depth. So I know young people can say, you know that friend, you know that your friend, you know a person that is better than you, but you rather go to someone that's shallow, where you just gist and laugh, than go to that person that challenge you. But that's where you should actually be, even for parents also. Facades. No. The fourth one is create a personal philosophy document, especially for parents. If you don't put things into writing, it's going to be so difficult to bring up children and train children in today's world. You must get to that aspect of documenting things, your experiences, especially your life experiences, especially. So know what you believe and why. And that's one of the reasons, for example, even God, as much as He gave the Holy Spirit, He still gave the Bible because He knows that there will come a time whereby at least that point of contact, the Bible will be there. So He gave the Holy Spirit, yes, but He also gave the Bible. So the closing charge as we begin to close is let your life be a statement, not a status update. A status comes and goes, comes and goes, comes and goes. I want you to last long on the platform, on the podium of greatness. Many people have come and gone, many people. But should I say, thankfully, we've seen a few people that have lasted long on this podium of greatness. And these are the modus operandi that help them. We are learning, we are still learning from them on what it takes for you to stand strong and strong, whether it's in industry, whether it's in ministry or any sphere of influence. Once you begin to imbibe all these things, and we're going to share out our slide notes, the notes we're using. We're going to create them into ebooks for young people to begin to dissect and read all these things. Let your life be a statement. Let your life be a statement. And I'll give you one story as we close. 2015, I moved to, I was in Ghana then. So I moved to a particular hostel and I had nothing. I only had my bag, nothing literally. No pot, nothing. And of course, I think I was just able to meet some guys around and, just to cook and all of those things. But guess what? In the hostel, some of the guys started calling me, do you know the name? Started calling me poverty. Truly, they were calling me poverty. Of course, to mock me, isn't it? They were, oh, poverty, poverty. Why am I saying this story? Because a young person can hear that kind of thing and you think you're poor, truly, you're poverty, if you don't have identity. And that can derail your goal. And before you know it, oh, you're moved by, you don't want to recover poverty, for example, you fight or you're going to get depressed or. But guess what? I didn't believe what they told me because I know I'm not poor. I know I'm not poor. And why am I saying this story? Just that same semester, a guy came to live with me. He just came. He was in the hostel. He wanted space. He said he wants to come and live with me. I said, "Oh, come live with me." And he brought in gadgets, big television screen, sound system, curtain, cooker, everything. And after 1 month, he said, "Oh, he got a contract in Accra." And he traveled and he left everything there. And I used that whole thing for the whole session, first semester, second semester. And one day, all those guys that were calling me poverty, they came to watch a football match in the room. And I just sat down and I remember what they called me then. And that is how life, that is the irony of life. But if I've, because of what they called me then, done things I should not supposed to do, that would have hindered the kind of testimony I later saw. So that's an encouragement for young people. You can think you are standing for truth, for conviction, and what is in it for me? Wow. The opportunity to stand out, the opportunity to become a template, the opportunity to become a role model. I don't want to trivialize it because by that time, everything you are looking for, whether it's income, influence, will come cheaply, will come, or impact will come cheaply. But that is if you are rooted. So culture doesn't need more influencers. It needs more root builders. Root builders. Live beyond trends and become the architect of legacy. Thank you very much, guys, for joining this evening. I think we've come to the end of the session. I don't know if you've got any questions. I want to see. Yes, I want to see key highlights. Okay. Are there any questions? Guys, have we followed all our pages on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on TikTok? Have we followed our pages? Have we followed it? I want everyone to follow our pages, to help. I want you to share it with all your friends and family also. And every parent should share with their children. You want your children to feast and engage with real-time materials that help their growth, isn't it? So I want you to follow us and share these links. All our videos, I want you to always react to them. Thank you guys. I can see Sulaimon, thank you for joining. I can see Paul from United Kingdom. I can see Eyison from Nigeria. I can see Chaser. I can see Tonu from Nigeria. Yeah, thank you guys. I'm very, very sure we've learned many, many things. So the key actions is very, very important. Of course, we're gonna be back again next webinar. It's gonna be so transformational. There's a particular topic we're gonna dissect: conflict management, and I think the flyer will be out very soon. Conflict management. Conflict management. You don't want to miss it, guys, because many people in climbing the ladder of success, you're gonna meet opposing views, but many young people don't know how to navigate and meander between conflicted bends, how to meander between, is it that maybe you have a tough parent, a tough boss, or a friend, and these things have impacts on how well you feel in life. So conflict management is going to be the next webinar. We're going to bring about the economic side of it, the social impact of conflict resolution and management. So thank you very much, guys. See you next time.